Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Krista Ormiston. I'm coming live to you today from Farm and Food Care Ontario, and I am joined today by my colleague Angela Larson, Communications Manager of Farm and Food Care Saskatchewan, who is here running and supporting the webinar behind the scenes. I hope that many of you around the call are not experiencing the snowstorm that I'm seeing outside my window right now, and I hope you are all safe working from home or working in an office space today. So it's been quite a winter here in Ontario. We are really pleased to see a large sign up across the industry of our colleagues that are joining us across the agri-food sector who are focused on agriculture communications. We will be recording today's session to share with you and with your team members who couldn't join us live today. We'd love to hear where you're coming from. So if you can use the chat, let us know who you are, what part of Canada you're coming to us from, and maybe what organization or industry you're coming from. Would love to see that engagement. So a little bit about who Farm and Food Care is. We bring together farmers, agriculture professionals, industry partners, government organizations, and many other stakeholders. And our shared mandate is to provide credible information on food and farming that really results in that strengthened consumer trust. So nationally, Farm and Food Care Ontario, Saskatchewan, and PEI collaborate to create opportunities like today's webinar that really show our support to members in their communication efforts. So together, we are committed to fostering collaboration across the agriculture sector and advancing those industry initiatives, expanding our consumer engagement efforts, and really developing some valuable resources for you to use. So as agriculture communicators, we are working in a landscape that's changing faster than we've ever seen. And AI is now shaping how we create our content, how we plan our campaigns, and how we engage our audiences. And staying ahead of these changes is critical to protecting trust and telling the story of Canadian agriculture effectively. Last November, on November 20th, Emily Bailey joined us to deliver the first part of this series that really dove into practical, responsible ways to use AI tools. And she was able to give us some in-depth information on the trends that are influencing our work over the next 12 to 24 months. So today we're excited to have this two parts in the series. We're diving deeper into AI strategy to understand how AI-powered search is changing visibility. And today our goal is to help you walk away with tactics to adapt your SEO work, your content planning for a new era of generative search. So our goal at Farm and Food Care is always to help provide you with tools and resources to communicate effectively with your audiences while growing public trust in food and farming. So it's really my pleasure to welcome Emily Bailey here with us today. She's an award-winning AI and digital marketing strategist, trainer, and professional who has been featured as an AI expert on CBC News Network. With over a decade of experience teaching and designing training programs, Emily believes that technology should work for people, not the other way around. That's why she trains organizations across Canada to use AI and digital marketing tools in ways that save time, boost productivity, and keep the human touch at the center of their work. Emily is a part-time professor in digital marketing at McMaster University and a proud mom of two young children and a dedicated supporter of Canadian businesses. Emily, I hope your kids aren't in the background today. I hope they made it to school. But if we
They
do hear
did.
some kids, we know that you might have a snow day. So I'm going to turn things over to you, Emily. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Krista, and the rest of the team for having me. And thank you to all of you joining us today from across Canada. We're delighted to have you, and we really appreciate you making the time. So a few notes on today's session. This is based on how to use AI to complement the wonderful work that you're already doing. Okay, so this is not how we're replacing jobs with AI. This is more like how can we adapt, and how can we really make this technology work for us now and into the future. So I want to say a big thank you to all those folks who are joining me. Let me know in the chat if you are using AI tools, and if so, which ones? Are you using ChatGPT? Are you using Microsoft Copilot? There's no wrong answers. I get to work with folks all across Canada, and I will say that everyone's sort of on their own journey. As Canadians, we're a little bit more hesitant or a little bit more skeptical about artificial intelligence. And I'm going to say for a minute, that's not a bad thing. We want to make sure that we're using this technology responsibly and ethically and navigating all of this change in a way that feels comfortable to us. So today, I'm going to give you some specific things that you can do and also help prepare you for what might be coming, let's say in the next year or two, as it relates to how people find information online. So I see we have folks using Perplexity. That's a great one for search. A lot of folks using ChatGPT, still probably the most popular AI large language model out there. People using Canva, which is a great design tool, Copilot, Notion, fantastic, lots of great options here. You can't really go wrong with any of those. And when we're thinking about how we want to maintain visibility amongst the people that we want to connect with through our organization, we want to sort of learn as much as possible about what they are using. So yes, perhaps we're using ChatGPT or we're using Copilot, for example, but I encourage you to talk to, your membership, talk to your clients, customers, et cetera, when you can, and try to have an ear to the ground as to what they are using, because that might help to give you some insight when you're planning for your marketing campaigns, when you're planning for your strategy to maintain visibility. So platforms like ChatGPT, Perplexity, Google now has AI overviews. They're kind of reshaping how people find information on the internet. We'll talk about some tactics that you could start using right away and some ideas. I welcome your questions. So please pop them in the chat. If you're wondering about something, chances are someone else in the group is wondering as well. And we'll definitely leave time at the end for questions as well. So pop them in those comments. Let me know if there's any other tools that you love to use. Folks love to learn from others in their work to find out those great tools. So what is AI search? Well, as Google has been really kind of the dominant place on the internet that people go to find information for many, many years, that is now starting to shift. Now, there are still many folks who will go to Google as the first stop, and Google has become synonymous with finding information. You need to know something, you Google it, right? It's become a verb or a name unto itself. Now, a lot of folks will continue to use Google as their search tool, and your customers or your clients or your members, they may fall into that category. So all this to say, not everyone is using AI search. Some of your audience may be using it, but again, I encourage you to find out more information, how much of your audience is using it. For example, that might depend on the individual, that might depend on their digital habits. What works for one person might not work for the other. And there's many, many options out there to find information. I would argue that it's never been easier for individuals to find out anything they want to know on the internet. They can go to Google, certainly, or they could go to ChatGPT. They could go to Perplexity. They could ask Siri, and Siri's going to give them an explanation. We have so much information at our fingertips, and yet the quality or the precision of that information, I'm going to say, is not always 100% accurate. So with AI, we know that AI can make mistakes, and we know that it doesn't always get it right. So part of what we want to keep an eye on here is AI, serving up our business information correctly? And if not, how can we kind of work to correct that as much as is possible? So traditional search, which is largely Google, some people might use Yahoo or Bing, but it's mostly Google, is increasingly moving over to ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, which is also a Google platform, and some other tools as well. This is changing the game because instead of getting that list of blue links, which invite people then to click on the website, visit your website, and read the information for themselves, they're now getting a summary or an answer to the question that they posed. This means they may not actually need to visit your website. They may not actually need to visit all of those links. They may get what they are looking for or sufficient enough information from a tool like ChatGPT, for example, and that may be their last stop. So it's important for us to understand how the economy of the internet is starting to shift. I would definitely say that Google is, I don't want to say threatened by all of these changes. They have their own AI, certainly, but Google Ads, for example, may not be as powerful in the coming years if more folks are leaving Google and going over to other AI tools. So it's part of our job to monitor these changes and kind of see how they all fit in. Now, you may have noticed if you have the job of monitoring website traffic, seeing how many people are visiting your website or your blog, for example, where they're coming from on the internet, are they searching for keywords, et cetera, et cetera. You may have noticed that your search traffic has dropped. This is normal. So for the past year or so, most websites out there have actually experienced a drop in search traffic, a drop in the number of people that are landing on their website. Why am I telling you this? Because I don't want you to panic if you're seeing that pattern as well. It's partly because of AI. Okay. So we still want people to arrive at our website. Our website is the source of truth for the organization, right? That's where the most reliable and engaging source of information is. AI can make mistakes. It may be the entry point to kind of drive them over to the website, but ultimately the goal should be having people kind of find their way over. So if all of this sounds intimidating, don't worry, I got you. You can make subtle changes that will help to boost your visibility in the AI age. Nothing needs to be overhauled overnight, okay? There are small things. If you have a search engine optimization strategy, otherwise known as SEO, in place already, or doing certain things to boost your search rankings and visibility on Google from before, that's amazing. A lot of those same tactics are going to still help you in AI search. They're going to help you be seen as the authority on your area of expertise, whether people use ChatGPT or something else. Now, in the industry, a new term that's been coined is generative engine optimization. So instead of SEO, now we're starting to talk about GEO. Another related term is answer engine optimization, which is AEO. They're all kind of, both of them are fairly similar. And this really is the practice of optimizing your content to make sure that it is trusted by those AI systems, and not just appearing on the Google page, but also appearing when someone searches for, beef best practices in Ontario, or, something relating to farming. Your answers will appear, your content will appear in those tools. So how do we actually do GEO, or actually how do we actually implement ways that our content can be seen by AI tools? Well, the goals are pretty much the same, but AI is going to sort of extract and pull information from your website and summarize it for you, or summarize it for the actual user. Okay, so it's going to, in its own words, kind of take what's already on your website, for example, and maybe on other websites as well, and it's going to summarize it in its own way, and it's going to serve it to that person, and reference your content. Obviously, we want that to be 100% correct every time. Can we guarantee that it's 100% correct every time? Unfortunately, not, but we can sort of help to increase the likelihood of it sort of appearing. Now, when people tend to look for things or look for information on tools like ChatGPT, for example, they tend to use a different approach when typing in their question. Sometimes people will use a voice tool. For example, if they have ChatGPT on their phone, they can open up the app and say, hey, ChatGPT, can you give me information on the latest farming best practices in Saskatchewan, for example? The way that people will typically ask questions in AI tools is more conversational. It's more like, where can I buy such and such things? Whereas if you're typing in something in Google, it may just be like a few keywords and that's it. So why is this relevant? Well, if you can create content or restructure some of the content on your website or blog or even social media to kind of mirror the answers to popular questions, that actually helps the AI tools to understand better, and it helps them to pull your information directly from your site. So we want to provide basically direct answers to questions, and make it easy for the AI bots to just sort of crawl through your site, pull what they need, and give it to that individual. Now, that individual may also still hop on over to your website. We want them to do that, of course, but some will not. Some will be like, okay, I got what I needed. I'm kind of moving on with my day. By the way, if you're ever using ChatGPT search or Gemini or Copilot, you're not sure where it got its information from. You're seeing content that could be useful in, let's say, a report or a presentation, but you're not 100% certain where it came from. Please be aware that at all times, you can ask it to show sources. Show sources. If it's not giving you the source of where it got that information, I would highly recommend asking the AI system, regardless of which one you're using. You can always say, show sources. That's all you need to say. If it can't verify or give you the source link where it got that information from, major red flag. I would definitely recommend not using that data unless you know that it's from a credible source. You know that it's not something that AI just kind of made up, because it can do that. Now, Google is trying to be clever and giving us these AI overviews. How many of you have noticed these when you use Google? Even if you're doing things the quote unquote old fashioned way, Google's kind of sneaking its AI search results into into answering our questions. And we didn't even ask for that. We're just all of a sudden seeing these AI overviews, and they're popping up quite often. This is Google's way of kind of keeping us here. We can potentially get information from that AI overview. We may not even need to click through to websites. So again, search traffic will continue to drop because people are getting this information right up front. This is changing how the internet works, folks. This is changing the economy of the internet. This is also making your Google ads potentially less visible if you are running Google ads, because this AI overview is the first thing that people might see if they're using Google still for search. That information is going to be attempting to answer their questions. In my experience, it is pretty good at answering questions. It is not 100%. Let me know in the comments if you agree. I've caught Google's AI overviews making mistakes before, but I will say that it is improving. Just please don't take it as gospel, because again, it's pulling information and it's using AI to kind of recalibrate and spit it back out. That's how AI operates, whether it's ChatGPT or it's Google's sort of version of that particular tool. Now, I want to share some news with you. You may or may not have heard that ChatGPT, which still is the most commonly used AI platform, now is going to offer ads. So this is a question that a lot of organizations have asked me, particularly over the past 6 months. They're saying, okay, Emily, if we are, seeing more and more of our clients using AI search, and we want to make sure that when folks search for our category, our business comes up as a recommended organization or recommended source. How do we do that? Can we buy ads? Until now, the answer was no. There was no paid ads inside ChatGPT. ChatGPT just kind of like decided for us what it was going to show us. And now that is starting to change. So the company that owns ChatGPT is called OpenAI. OpenAI, I think, is looking to implement ads as a revenue strategy. They are saying that they're going to be testing ads starting in the US. I have no doubt in my mind, having been in the digital industry for almost 20 years, I have no doubt that they will be expanding those ads to Canada as well, probably in the near future, which means that if an organization has the budget or is willing, they can potentially consider investing in ChatGPT ads. Now, I think it's too soon for me to recommend that that's what you do. I'm not saying you need to put that in your budget for next year, or that this is something that you're going to need to do, but rather we're kind of giving you the lay of the land a little bit so that you can kind of monitor how all of this is impacting your organization. So the ads themselves, just so you know how they will function, they will be clearly labeled and they'll be separate to the answers to an individual's questions. So they will be labeled as an ad, or it'll be called like sponsored. And they, according to OpenAI, I take everything they say with a grain of salt, by the way, but they did say that these ads will not influence the answers that are provided. So let's say Cargill has ads on ChatGPT. OpenAI is sort of saying that doesn't mean that Cargill will be the most often cited answer in anyone inquiring about that category on ChatGPT. No, that's a space I'll be watching, and I can report back as to how that all unfolds. The ads will not be shown to all ChatGPT users. They will only be shown to the free users. And now ChatGPT has an $8 a month subscription option, $8 a month US, by the way, which might be like $10 or so, $11 Canadian, for example. And those will contain ads as well. The vast majority of ChatGPT users here and around the world are on the free version, or perhaps some of them will move to that $8 a month low cost version. That's the majority of people. So I'm telling you this so that you know what's coming, and you can kind of think, if that might be a direction. It may not be needed at all. This is an example of what the ads will look like according to OpenAI. They provided this image of a sample ad. So this example here is relating to desert cottages. Someone's saying, I'm planning a trip to Santa Fe, New Mexico, etc. And then you can see down at the bottom there, after the answer, it's showing some sponsored ads for, oh, look at that, desert cottages, expansive residences with desert vistas. So I'm very interested in how much they're going to charge for these ads and how they're going to price them, and how that will compare with Google ads, which still will be available in the future. But this may be an additional avenue for organizations with that paid budget to consider adding to their strategy. So keep the questions coming. I see in the chat there, Ross says, I've had AI make assumptions based on documents posted online and indicate relationships exist, but in reality, the business relationships were not as AI represented. How can you feed AI better information? This is an excellent question, Ross, and I think it's one that a lot of folks are grappling with right now. How do we ensure that correct information is being drawn from sources on the internet? If AI is kind of making up its own version, let's call it, it's a little bit tough right now because there's not a lot of control we have directly to those AI systems. What I would encourage, however, is generating additional content where you can that sort of reiterates that factual information with the goal of kind of outweighing or influencing those AI summaries. I know it's a little bit easier said than done, but for example, if there were that misinformation out there, perhaps a LinkedIn post or something on the website in blog format addressing that and sort of correcting that information could be useful as well. And just trying to make sure that that information is, the volume of information is correct. Jasmine says, I tend to trust the AI overview for low stakes search. Yes, but spend more of my own time researching for important information. Yeah, Jasmine, I think you've got the right strategy there. Sometimes, like you said, if it's low stakes, if it's a very simple sort of basic information, if it's something complex that you need to get right, I absolutely recommend doing some more fact checking, finding, multiple sources of information and making sure that those sources are credible. There's a lot of misinformation out there on the internet, and we want to make sure that we are getting the best. Ross, as a follow-up there, says, are there regulations that govern how press can use or quote or use AI search results? I'm not sure that there are any laws in place. The laws in Canada are pretty lax at the moment, or lacking, let's call it. Not a lot of regulation around AI in Canada really at all at this stage. I think that individual press organizations would probably have their own policies. So, fact checking, secondary sources, and things like that would be highly recommended, if not required within a news organization. But listen, mistakes can get made. Deloitte, which is a massive, global consultancy firm, they've put out reports for clients that have AI hallucinations, which are basically mistakes, on more than one occasion. It's pretty mind-boggling, but it does happen. So this is a space that I believe could use a little more regulation, and I would like to see that come to pass. David says, since AI search queries are much longer and conversational, it will be interesting to see how bidding will work. I assume it will be more akin to broad search, since exact match won't be realistic. Will be interesting to see how they configure the mechanics. Absolutely, more details will become available at the end of the session. I'm going to give you a QR code link. You can sign up for my weekly newsletter if you wish. I send out AI and marketing news each week. And once that information becomes available about how those search ads are going to work in ChatGPT, that's something that I'll be reporting back on. So keep the questions coming. This is fantastic. We'll keep moving through in the interest of time, and then we'll come back to make sure everyone gets their questions answered. So your page, what can you do with your web page or your website to help make sure AI is representing your organization accurately? We don't have as much control over this as we would like, but we can influence and, optimize the content as much as possible. So your web pages, this is a great time to take another look, another pass at the different pages that are in your website and checking for, does your page explain things clearly? I know that sounds like a given, but it's even more important now. Is it easy to excerpt? Could an AI tool, that received a question relating to your organization, grab the answer from your site quickly, easily, efficiently? Does it sound credible if it's, quoted out of context? And because AI search tools pull from your websites, by the way, they also pull from other sources on the internet. We want to try to mirror the types of questions that are most commonly asked when people are searching for your website. So, for example, how do dairy farmers use technology to reduce emissions? That could be a question someone may ask in ChatGPT, for example. If that answer or that phrasing is reflected on your website, then you have a better chance of AI sort of pulling from that, extracting that information from your site and sort of feeding it up, serving it up to a person who may be looking for that. These types of questions, if they don't fit, if a question and answer style format doesn't quite fit with the flow of your website, I'm not suggesting you need to overhaul everything on your website. Take another peek. You can do that today, even while we're on the call, if you wish, and see, how easily does your content answer some pretty fundamental questions people may have about your industry. Those questions can also be answered on blogs. They can be answered on your social media as well. It doesn't all have to be housed in your web pages, but FAQs do typically perform pretty well. FAQs are frequently asked questions that are getting more and more popular in the internet. They are fantastic for like drop-down menus or a section at even the bottom of a website or a web page. FAQs answer typical questions that folks may have. They make it really easily read when you're scanning on a screen. No one wants to read a whole essay or a whole ream of text. They want to just see what question are they looking for and what is the answer to that question. So you're kind of making it bite-sized information. That can be extremely helpful, and that can help to influence the AI search results. So I want to encourage you, if there's an opportunity for an FAQ section on your website, now may be the time to explore that. By the way, you can use AI to help you create an FAQ. I'm not suggesting that AI do the whole thing, but it can help you come up with some questions and answers, bite-sized information, easy to read, clear, no jargon. That's really what is going to work well here. So that's going to make it easy for those AI systems to extract and use those answers. And you can write the answers and the questions in your FAQ section, kind of like a conversation, like a human might ask a question and then a human is answering the question, right? It doesn't have to be super technical. It should be accessible. It should be kind of natural language conversation, because that's how people tend to talk to an AI chatbot. It's not going to be an overly technical question. In some cases, it's going to be more conversational. Okay. So FAQ section is a great place to start. Top 5 style lists. By the way, it could be top 3, it could be top 10. It doesn't have to be 5. These are great too. AI loves these because they're easily read, they're easily understood, they're easily extracted. This can be blog post format. This could be web pages. This could be, sort of like an explainer type of piece of content. And on those pages, we want to make sure we have clear headings. Lists are helpful. Lists, as long as they're not too lengthy, but lists allow people to scan at a glance, and they avoid making your screens too cluttered. By the way, a lot of folks who will be visiting your site will be doing so on their mobile phone, which is a smaller screen. So we want to make sure we're making it easy on the eyes and comfortable for them to read. Now, keeping your website content up to date, I know it goes without saying, but I see organizations even now that have a Google business listing that doesn't have their updated hours, or it doesn't have any updated images, or it doesn't have reviews, for example, from recent. It has reviews from a few years back. That can also influence the AI search results. And so I want to encourage you to, if you do have a Google business listing, if that's appropriate to your type of organization, have another peek at that just to make sure that everything's updated, everything's looking current, and that activity and certainly reviews are helpful as a marketing signal, but also as an AI search tool. Now, what you want to work toward also is building what we call off-page trust and authority. What does this mean? Well, let's say a media outlet is doing a story on an issue in your industry, and that journalist happens to start their process of research by visiting ChatGPT. You want your website or your voice to be most visible. So you want to be kind of recognized as that source of truth. That means getting mentioned on other pages other than your own. So you can control your website, you can control your blog, for example, but if you can get mentions and profile on other websites in your industry in particular, or on media websites, that is also going to give you more authority on the AI search engines, and also help to sort of boost that visibility and boost that credibility when people search for those topics. Now, interestingly, it just came out that AI search tends to favor certain sites for information and favors discussion threads. This is where it gets a little murky in my view, because Reddit is one of those sources. Now, has anyone here ever used Reddit for anything? It could be something non-work related. It's a very popular discussion forum. People can talk about all sorts of stuff on there. It's a very, very popular site, but it's not really a business site. It's not really a professional site. It's more of like, I would say, a conversational discussion platform where people can post, all sorts of stuff. But AI is pulling from Reddit. So all of this to say, it's not a bad idea to do a quick sort of audit, look up your organization or the issues facing your organization. Are they getting talked about on Reddit? Do you need to chime in, for example, and correct any misinformation there? LinkedIn is also a popular place where AI search is pulling from. I know myself, when I search using ChatGPT, I do tend to get LinkedIn articles served up to me as like a recommended article that I read. And I'm like, okay, someone just wrote this on LinkedIn. Like, yes, a professional wrote it, but it's not an organization. So these sources are, as you can see, not exactly airtight. And so this is where it gets a little bit tricky. We can control the things we can control. We can sort of keep an eye on the rest of it. Risk management, let's call it. Wikipedia is another source of information. So if your brand is on Wikipedia, you might want to just take a peek and make sure that it's up-to-date information there, and that it's represented accurately, that you can typically update. So that accuracy, those kind of neutral entries are going to help in anchoring your brand. So I want to challenge you, take a couple of minutes now. If you want to open up a new tab, or you want to even go on your phone, if you have it handy, you can do a quick 5-minute audit. And what you're going to do is choose an AI platform of your choice. You may prefer ChatGPT, you may prefer Google Gemini, you may wish to try out Perplexity. Totally up to you. Copilot is fine too. And what I'd like you to do is type in this prompt. What is, and then you're going to insert your organization's name, known for, and who are their primary competitors. And what this is going to do is a little test to see if the AI is getting it right, if they're pulling accurate information, first of all, and if they're identifying, your core products or services, and if it is able to take that a step further and list competitors. If you have others in that same space, they may be competitors, they may even be sort of more like partners, but you can kind of use this to get a sense of how well AI is currently ranking information from your organization. So what is your organization known for, and who are their primary competitors? Pop that into one of the AI tools and see what kind of information you can get there. You should have an answer fairly quickly. And if it's not accurate, that means that we have a little bit more attention to pay to where this misinformation may be sort of floating around. So I'll give you a minute to work on that. If you have questions, pop them in the chat there. Just checking in here. This is fantastic. Megan says, I just learned on the Hard Fork podcast that you can give ChatGPT custom instructions under personalization. So I always make chat return sources in every search. That's amazing, Megan. You're on the right track. Thank you for sharing that, because returning sources or providing sources is critical to trusting those AI tools. If it's just gobbledygook that you can't verify, then that's not very helpful to you or anyone else. But you can give ChatGPT custom instructions. You can go into those personalization settings. You're absolutely right. And you can make you can make it sort of show sources. For folks that don't have those personalization settings set up, just say show sources. Every time you can say that, and don't be shy about it. Lizette says, I will often say to chat, where did you find that information? I need you to fact check. Perfect. That's the same function. And you're challenging the AI tool, not just taking it word for word, verifying, doing your due diligence. Getty says, I've had ChatGPT serve up one of my own photos. Wow. And from my website, after having asked it a question, it did not offer a source. And when I said, hey, that's my photo, it said, no, it's not. It's a general photo until I proved it wrong. Is there any way we can get it to credit our work when it uses it? Oh, wow. That's a really thorny, very awkward. I'm sorry that you had that encounter. I know what some artists will do. Photographers, painters, musical artists, and so on, who are concerned about copyright, and rightly so. They will run their website through Cloudflare, which allows them to make it not searchable, it means that AI bots will not be able to extract information from it. For artists, this 100% makes sense. For organizations, not as much, because you actually want your legit information to be accessible as much as possible, so that it has the truth, let's call it. But for copyright, yeah, it's a bit of a mess. There's no rules really around copyright currently in Canada. So AI is extracting works such as photographs. And I'm sorry that happened. Megan says, what role will earned media play in terms of influencing AI search results and ranking? Earned media will always help. It will always help. So press mentions, let's say you're covered on a industry publication, for example, that's golden, especially if it's an online publication, even better. And the more profile your brand gets on other websites, third-party sites, industry sites, news sites, media sites, LinkedIn, Reddit, that will all help to build your credibility and build those that likelihood of you being visible in those AI platforms. So absolutely, I encourage that. It's great for your brand overall from a marketing standpoint, but it's also influential in the AI search age. Jasmine says, how does AI search affect the quality of our web analytics? For example, I know web traffic might go down, but will anything else be affected? Can we see how our website's information is being used in AI search in the numbers? It's a little bit of a black box, Jasmine, as to what we have access to and what AI tells us. The algorithms that each of these platforms like ChatGPT or Gemini use, they're kind of behind the scenes. They don't really tell us a lot about how it actually functions and, how many search hits we've got from AI, for example. I hope that will come, because I agree with you. That information is super valuable from an organizational standpoint. I think in general, AI search will probably continue to you'll see more of a decline in the number of hits to a website, but you also may see more hits on other sites like LinkedIn, for example. Other social media sites can be helpful, those third-party sites as well. So we kind of just do our best at this stage, and it's a fast-moving area, and I'll be sure to keep folks apprised of these changes. Let's go back to our slides. Let me know what you found during that 5-minute search. You search for your organization and what is it known for, and who are those primary competitors? Did it get it right? Did it get it wrong? Curious to hear from you. And those strategic placements, I want to encourage all of you, keep your eye out, keep your ear to the ground. If you have something newsworthy happening in your organization, you can pitch it to media, you can send out a media release, and so on. If you have, let's say, a study or a white paper or a case studies section on your website, that can be really, really useful for AI, influencing AI answers as well. And again, make sure that directory information, Google business listing, your name, your address, phone number, your about us section are consistent across all the different platforms. That also helps to make sure that that your organization gets profiled correctly with the right types of information. The irony of all of this is that AI search engines don't like AI generated content. So if you were thinking, gee, how are we going to rework these all this content? How are we going to, add more information to our socials and so on? You can use AI, but please use it strategically for content production and content optimization. If you just publish generic content and it's like a wall of text, that's not going to be useful to really anyone, but it's also not going to be useful from an AI search perspective. So I know ironic. We're saying, optimize for AI, and then we're saying AI actually doesn't like when we just publish AI generated content. So you can use it to help you reformat and so on. Just don't publish content that is clearly the first draft output from a generic AI tool. The first draft that ChatGPT gives you, folks, it's not going to be great. I've been using ChatGPT for almost 3 years now, and I still get content sometimes that is just subpar. I use it and then I rework it, I optimize it, and I rewrite it as needed. That is the only way, really, to ensure we get that really professional level of content that reflects very positively on your organization and your brand. So if you can add examples that are true to your team, true to your clients, like testimonials, profiles of existing clients and what you were able to achieve with them or for them, that is marketing gold. And that's the human piece that can't be replaced by AI. That's what humans like to see. And ironically, AI search engines like to see that as well. So no generic AI content. You want it to be specific to your organization. As I said earlier, information has never been easier to access from many different touch points. We want to publish content that's add something special, that's something unique to your organization and your organization alone. A few more best practices, and then we'll go back to the questions to wrap up. If you can use that clear HTML structure, this is where it gets a little bit technical. If you have a web designer you work with, fantastic. If not, make sure you're using those headings appropriately. Schema markup is really helpful. If folks want more information on that, I'm happy to supply that. And no walls of text. No one wants to read so much text on a screen. Use subheadings, break it up, use unique images and things like that, and write clearly without jargon. Those really are the sort of best approaches, and what we can do now to influence those AI generated search responses. And keeping in mind, I say this at every AI session I do for organizations all across Canada. We have to use this technology responsibly. We can control what we can control, but those incorrect and poor quality outputs are a risk. And so that's where the user is sort of approaching this. We have to make sure that we're careful with the information that we put into an AI tool. Please, no sensitive information, no medical information, for example, no credit cards, no social insurance numbers, that kind of thing. Any sensitive data belonging to you or your members or your clients shouldn't go into an AI tool, just to be safe. AI actually is not great for the environment either. I just want to acknowledge that, because I know a lot of you are working in the environmental space. You may see more headlines about this coming in the next few months to a year. Data centers that are powering this new technology consume a ton of electricity, and they consume a ton of fresh water as well. So just something to kind of keep your eye on. If the use of AI conflicts with the values of the organization, that can create a bit of a misalignment. But I'm happy to answer any questions about that specifically if folks would like. So thank you to all of you. I'm going to hop on over to the comments. So much great feedback, and I really appreciate all of you taking the time to, try out that exercise and ask these amazing questions. Let's see here. We have Jessica saying, how often is AI pulling from its own information bank, say information you or others have fed it directly versus outside sources? Great question, Jessica. Right now, it's primarily pulling from non-AI sources. It's pulling from quote unquote reputable sources. Now, AI may have touched that content for sure, but it's prioritizing content that seems like it has been written by a human. So that's good news for us. Praveen says, what if we all asked the same questions to different AI tools and then compared how each one responds to us? You should do that. I've done that before. And what you will find is that you get different responses from different tools. So if you put in the exact same question in ChatGPT, you put it in Copilot, you put it in, let's say, Gemini, you're going to get 3 different responses. It's pretty crazy. Try it out. It can be a lot of fun, but it's also like we need to be aware of what's going on all these different surfaces. Cynthia says, got it very right. That's great. Sabina says, the search I did was quite accurate about the company, but a little less in terms of competitors. Okay, thank you, Sabina, from sharing. Kelly says, the AI pulled mostly from their website. Erin says the AI got it totally right. That's great news, Erin. Thank you for sharing. Sandra says, a bit of a mixed bag, shared our website as one of the last links to find out information. Okay, wonderful. Dorothy says, we are using SEMrush. That's an SEO tool to measure our AI standing and give us recommendation on AI strategies. We are excited to learn how much AI likes the Canadian Food Focus website. Well done. We are in the top 5 authority score and highest sentiment score in our sector. Wow, congratulations. One of the main recommendations it gave us was collaboration with like-minded organizations to build more content. Any other advice? That's a great recommendation. Thank you, Dorothy. I'm very pleased to hear that you're getting that positive feedback so far. Collaboration, I believe, is great. I would perhaps focus on building more LinkedIn content because LinkedIn is a professional network and AI is pulling increasingly from that space. So you could create articles on there, you could do video on there, and you can actually tag the different keywords in your content. That's great. Thank you. Tara says it named one of our partners as a competitor. Oh, interesting. Rachel says, what type of language does AI prefer on websites? When explaining what you should do, should it be simple or more technical? Short answer is, Rachel, it should be clear. And so clear means it doesn't necessarily need to be like elementary school level, but it should not have a lot of jargon or industry terms. It should be kind of accessible to, the average person who may be inquiring about that type of organization. So kind of somewhere in the middle, I would say. If you're selling technical products, for example, that you may need to use some technical language, but make sure there's not too much fluff, make sure there's not too much jargon, and that your answers are being sort of clearly articulated. Getty says, I searched on Gemini and it was quite accurate, learned some things about me and who my competitors are. Wonderful. Well, the learning doesn't stop here. I encourage you, keep playing around with these AI search tools. If you've only used ChatGPT, for example, today I encourage you maybe try out Perplexity or maybe try out Gemini. By the way, Gemini is getting really good and it may even outpace ChatGPT in the next year or so. I've been using it myself. I have a weekly newsletter. We'll put the QR code up on the screen. If you are interested in following along, you can scan that QR code with your phone right now. Join my mailing list. And as I mentioned before, I send out weekly updates on what's happening in the AI and marketing space. It's all written in plain language. But if you want to keep in touch, I would love to do that. I want to say a big thank you to the organizers for bringing us together today. I hope this was valuable to you. It's a quickly moving space, but you folks are engaged, you're bright, you're competent, and I know you've got this.
Well, Emily, that was fantastic, and I'm really pleased to say that our audit of Farm and Food Care Ontario was pretty accurate. I'm pretty pleased with that outcome. So thank you for giving us the opportunity to do that exercise. And I'm also very pleased to hear my job is still intact, as human talent will always be essential for what we do. So thank you for your time and talents. It's been a pleasure hearing your expertise, and we hope that everybody will sign up for your newsletter to get some additional content and follow along with the important work that you're doing. So thanks so much, Emily. I want to encourage everybody on the call today, when you're on LinkedIn doing that work that's going to help us extend our message accurately, look for the following groups. So if you search Agri-Food Connect Canadian, you will see that we've built a really important group for agriculture communicators to come together, where we can share resources like this webinar, and really have some cross collaboration and information sharing. So please follow along there and join us in that important space. Next slide, please. Again, I encourage you all to sign up for Emily's weekly newsletter. We will share it as well with a survey at the end of the session today so that you can easily sign up for that. And we will be following up with a recording of this webinar, and you can have another listen, take some more notes, and then give us some really important information to help us build future opportunities for connection and webinars. So thank you very much for your time today and for sharing us. And we look forward to connecting with you soon. Thanks so much, Emily.
My pleasure.